Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor, and today I wanted to Steelman Vaush on Hasan Piker. One, guess what? Y'all love this shit. So, Verdant Force, if you're tired of talking about Hasan or talking about Vaush or talking about socialism or your values or anything like that, don't watch. I saw your comment. There's plenty of other stuff to watch. Go watch the 40K stuff or the science fiction stuff or the media breakdowns or the war stuff or the history stuff or the psychology stuff. There's plenty of other content. If you don't like this content, don't click on it. Get the fuck out of here. All right, for those of you who want to do it. Recently, Vaush had a debate with Irrelevant about Hasan's personal conduct, his personal finances, and whether or not it's a liability or a problem worthy of addressing in the leftist spheres. Irrelevant, Ahrelevant, identifies as I want to say a SocDem, social democrat. So basically, he wants to take capitalism as far as it can go with redistributed programs in order to help people out. And Vaush, I believe, identifies as a libertarian socialist, where he actually wants socialism, the decommodification of basic human need, and workers to own the means of production. So these are two people at the extremes, one at the extreme of capitalism, one at the extreme of socialism, meeting in the middle. And the social democrat is the person who's criticizing Hasan Piker, who is also a socialist, who is being kind of stand in this conversation, right? So primarily it was an optical debate about the utility of criticizing Hasan Piker for not doing more with his wealth and his power. It boils down to a few core points that I want to go over so that they can be addressed. And I also want to bring up criticisms that I don't think were addressed in this debate. So Irrelevant's position is pretty simple, actually. Hasan has incredible reach, influence, and money, and he should do more with it. He should invest in mutual aid, do more charity streams, donate to electoral campaigns, and millions of dollars is more than enough to meet Hasan's material needs and have a real impact on the world. One point that I want to bring up before we move on is that Vaush brought up a counterpoint of like, well, when is enough? And what is the arbitrary line between somebody who has a subsistence income and somebody who has millions of dollars? And what is the exact percentage that they should contribute to causes that they ostensibly care about? My answer is that once you meet subsistence, once you're able to survive, and then once you're able to achieve your reasonable goals of humanity, own a nice place, have a wife, have some kids, take care of your people, all that kind of stuff, then if there's an excess of wealth after that, then sure, take care of yourself, live your dreams, YOLO, all that shit. But there should be a decent chunk of that larger excess that goes to the thing that you care about. That's the moral difference. If somebody's making $20K a year and they're $200 behind on their bills, I'm not expecting them to take all of the money in their checking account and donate it to the Democratic Socialists of America. However, if somebody claims to be a socialist and they're able to live off of $500,000 a year and they can live in the nice side of town and they're making $3 million a year, I do expect some portion of their wealth to go to the thing that they care about. I think that's an important moral difference. But without getting too negative, let's go over Vaush's perspective in a way that I think is charitable and understands it and isn't dickish. Let's do it. So, Hasan, this is Vaush's perspective, or at least what I heard during the debate, is that Hasan already contributes to the socialist cause by normalizing socialism. In 1990, if you came out and said that you were a socialist, people would lock you up in an insane asylum because it was so obvious that it was morally incorrect because of the historical terrors and horrors of China and Soviet Russia during the 20th century and the final great collapse of the Soviet Union and all of the stories that like poured out of the Eastern Bloc in the years after that. It was obvious that socialism or communism was evil and stupid and shouldn't be tried and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's been about 30 years, and we have a new generation, and they don't care about any of that crap, and they're not being paid very much, and they don't have very good benefits, so they're, likely to be recruited for this moment, right? And Hasan, through being entertaining and charming and handsome and funny, while also being publicly a socialist and forwarding socialist memes, he's already doing a public service by radicalizing tens of thousands of young folk. And by the way, I'm not saying radicalize. I'm pretty sure that like multiple people have used the term radicalize when it comes to Hasan Piker specifically. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure some of his media was agitation propaganda, specifically propaganda to get young people riled up so they do something stupid. So, Vaush's point is that this is a service in and of itself, that the pundit class and the mainstream media don't necessarily, like, their service to their political faction is not necessarily that of, you know, taking their material wealth and directing it towards their politics. It's more of punditry and propagating ideas and all that kind of stuff. And that Hasan's wealth is a pittance, a tiny amount compared to the amount for other people who advocate for certain ideas and never implement them in their lives or never implement them in the real world. So Hasan Piker specifically is no bigger of a hypocrite than anybody else, right? Furthermore, in Vaush's utilitarian consequentialist perspective, utilitarian being, how do I create the most good for the most amount of people? And consequentialist meaning evaluating courses of action in their ultimate consequence. Hasan's perceived hypocrisy or perceived lack of action and the optical liability to the leftist movement is not as important as his contributions at radicalizing tens of thousands of young folk. So if you were to take this as a purely positive, negative calculus on what Hasan's doing, Vaush's personal assessment of Hasan is that he will have a positive impact despite whatever criticisms or controversies he stirs up. Furthermore, irrelevant, bringing up these criticisms that, you know, Hasan could do more with his wealth, power, and influence is a line of attack used by conservatives, liberals, and progressives that perceived hypocrisy is a historical criticism that actually doesn't address socialism's real arguments that the worker should own the means of production and basic human needs should be decommodified. It's a distraction. It's a lightning rod through which to criticize the avatars of this ideology rather than dealing with the ideology itself or the ideology's criticisms. So, Vaush further states that socialism is a broad systemic change, not an interpersonal one, that in order to affect these changes, you need electoral power or political power in general in order to implement, again, decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. And Hasan's ability to affect that outcome individually is actually very small. Even if he donated a few $100,000 a year specifically towards this goal, either through electoral politics or mutual aid, it's ultimately not going to amount to much. Whereas him normalizing the word and the idea and being publicly a socialist and all that kind of stuff, that is where Hasan's value comes through. Vaush was personally tired of playing defense on the left because he believed that the leftist infighting between capitalist progressives, social democrats, and liberals against Hasan was the left teaming up with the right with right-wing talking points in order to delay the momentum of the left by attacking somebody who was valuable if flawed. Can we pause there? Is that a good summary of the ideas? Do you feel like you've been Steelmanned? If you're a Vaushite or a Hasan stan, do you feel like I articulated that, that thing in good faith? Because I feel like I understand the arguments fairly well, and I still have some problems with it that I'm going to articulate to you now. But what I want from you, before you leave a negative comment in my subsection, is I don't want you to say I don't understand. I feel like I understand perfectly. I feel like I was able to articulate Vaush's ideas and criticisms and his defense and all that kind of stuff perfectly well. So if you have a further explanation that you feel like I missed a subpoint or I missed some nuance or here's an additional idea or here's something else, please feel free to write it below. But if you're just going to say mauled, cope, seethe, I don't care because, you're a leftist, so I don't really care too much about your opinion. But while that was very rude, and I do have a lot of leftists in my audience, so I am sorry about that. If you do have some constructive feedback or criticism, go ahead and leave it below. So this is my problem with that perspective. All right. This is an ends justifies the means mentality, where socialism would have to be inherently correct in its prescriptions to look past the supposed hypocrisy of Hasan. Radicalizing tens of thousands of young people without an incremental game plan and no real agenda is bad, actually. telling tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of teenagers that all of their problems is in some external system and all they have to do is smash it in order to realize a utopia, and then have no real game plan about how to create like community consciousness or mutual aid organizations, or actually deal with like the complex logistics or economic infrastructure that would be necessary in order to create a state capable of delivering on these ends. And on top of that, basically saying that the current state as it exists needs to be destroyed in order to do so, is bad. Actually, you're telling tens of thousands of kids that basically their government and the people who represent them and their institutions and all that kind of stuff is inherently evil, and it's up to them to destroy it, and then you're giving them no game plan past that. This is bad, actually. So, here's another point. Hasan does have wealth and influence that can be leveraged into real material good. And for this in particular, I have an allegory. It's about starfish. There's a young man who's on the beach, and there's hundreds or thousands of washed up starfish, and they're dying in the open sun. And the young man is running around frantically, picking up the starfish and throwing them back into the sea. He picks up one, throws it, runs, picks up one, throws it, runs, picks up one, throws it, runs. And then an old, bitter, decrepit old man walks by and he says, "Son, there's hundreds of thousands of them. What you're doing doesn't matter." And the young man, undeterred, walks up, picks up another starfish and throws it into the ocean. And he says, "It mattered to that one." And he continues about his work. This is my frustration with people who say that, oh, it's only a few $100,000. Oh, it's only a few $1 million. Oh, what can he do? Can he only hire the whatever? Like all this bullshit, right? It matters. In the grand cosmic nihilist perspective, it doesn't matter. We're on a dart ball in the void of space, flying around a superheated gas giant. We're all going to live. We're all going to die. All of our relationships don't matter. We don't know whether or not memory is going to transcend death. We don't know whether or not there's an afterlife. We don't know this, that, the other, whatever existential panic crisis that you want to go in. But you can't tell me that if I do something nice for you, or if you do something nice for me, it doesn't matter. You can't tell me that the love of a child or the love of a pet or doing something nice for somebody else or having something nice done for you or a friend's hand on your shoulder during a time of need or losing a loved one, you can't tell me it doesn't matter. And this is, a Jordan Peterson thing is like whenever somebody is in denial about whether or not existence is important, ask them to think about their own pain and whether or not they think that's real. And what's meant by that is that you can't be in denial of pain. If I grab your finger and snap it sideways, you're going to snap real quick out of that existential fucking bullshit about whether or not anything ultimately matters. Your finger being snapped sideways is going to mean something to you. If you lose somebody or something that you care about, that's going to mean something to you. So let's stop with the existential nihilist fucking learned helpless pity party of it's only a few 100,000, it's only a few million, he could only help out a few families, he could only help out this, he could only help out that. Fuck that. That's like capitalist propaganda that like, oh, a few $1 million, who cares? A few people helped out, who cares? Why am I hearing this from leftists? Whatever. All right, next point. Cooperatives. The business model's so good, we don't have to implement it. Like, I wrote that shit down, and it fucking hurt me. It hurt me physically because we've heard debate after debate after debate after debate after debate. Cooperatives are awesome. They're efficient. The employees are happier. Everybody's happier. Workplace productivity goes up. Benefits go up. The economy goes up. Everybody's paid. Everybody's happy. Everybody's so good. And then you ask the largest leftist streamers in the world to say, hey, why don't you pay your employees? Why don't you pay your employees a living wage? Oh, he's an editor. He's a contract worker. Oh, they're mods. They're contract workers. You make $2 million, bitch. You could pay four community reps $50K a year. That's a living wage in some places of the planet. And you can pay your editor $70 to $100K a year. And that person is rich in some places in the fucking country. And guess what? You're still a multimillionaire. Why am I hearing excuses That's not even a cooperative. It's just what a capitalist does. How are we not even up to the standards of the people that you criticize as being evil? What? Like, these people are evil because they exploit the labor of other people in order to benefit. Bitch, you got $3 million. Pay the people who work for you. Like, what is this? All right. That. And then cooperatives. If it's such a surefire fucking business model, invest in one. You don't have to run it. You don't have to be a CEO. Just find somebody competent and invest in it. We'll see how that goes. All right. Anyways. So cooperatives. The business model, so awesome. You don't have to implement it because it's not competitive in a capitalist economy. Okay. Makes sense. All right. So, also, we're being told that once we integrate the system, right, we decommodify basic human need and the workers own the means of production, a lot of things are just going to fall into line. People are going to be happier. They're going to be able to take care of their families. They're going to be paid better. Wages are going to be better. All this kind of stuff. And yet, we can't create a small-scale model of it working before we expand up to the big thing. There's something in business called a prototype, right? Where if you have a great idea, you build a working model of it, you work out the kinks, and then once you work out the kinks, you scale it out to create production lines for the broader market. That's how it works. And what we're being told is that we can't build a prototype because a prototype's not going to work because it's in competition with finished models. But if we just take the entirety of society and make the prototype, it'll work out just fine. And then when you look at the other societies that went ahead with that model, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, Russia, the Eastern Bloc, there's like dozens upon dozens of examples of like dystopian fucking nightmares. But don't look at those models. Okay? I would be infinitely more sympathetic to socialism if some of the rich leftists were able to invest in a cooperative or a business or mutual aid organizations and show on a community level, pick one city, right? Pick one city in America. Pick Tarrytown, New York, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or Pittsburgh. Go small. Go with some bumfuck city in Michigan and decommodify the basic human needs of that one city and let all of the workers work in a cooperative. And let's see if it works. And if your prototype works, maybe we can scale it up. But if it doesn't work, then I want you to shut the fuck up because you don't know how to wield power or logistics or economics or a society. I don't trust you with shit. So before I hand you keys to the car, I want you to learn to ride your tricycle. Scale up your competence. I'm not handing you the keys to a Maserati when you can't even ride your fucking tricycle. All right. Last 2 points because I'm getting tired. This optical issue will ultimately become a liability if it's not addressed. It will become a net negative on the movement if you don't address rich leftists not creating prototype models for the society that they want to implement and not using their wealth or their money or their power in order to implement small-scale change. You're going to be called out as hypocrites by liberals and progressives and SOCDEMs and conservatives and libertarians because you talk a big fucking game about how if you were in power and if you were in charge, you would implement a better society, and then when you're given a modicum of wealth and power, you don't do shit with it. You don't do piss. You do fucking charity streams. Okay, great, and God bless you, right? Awesome. Raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for fucking people you don't know. These are good things. I'm not being sarcastic. Capitalists do that. What makes you different than a capitalist? Besides the label socialist. And somebody brought this up in my YouTube comments. I know I'm getting tangenting, but I hope you enjoy it anyways. Vegans are not people who believe that eating meat is unethical, but then continue to eat meat. Vegans are people who actively don't consume animal products. Vegetarians, to a lesser degree, choose not to consume certain animal products. And we assign a certain amount of worth and consistency to the people who engage in each one of these factions. And then we also assign a certain level of moral consistency and worth to how hard these people adhere to this. So, if there was a vegan who made their platform off of veganism and then advocated that everybody was vegan, but then they went to fucking KFC and they got the fucking chicken sandwich that is a chicken breast covered in bacon with a chicken breast in the center with more bacon with a chicken breast on top, and they had fucking cheese all stacked up in that bitch, and they were eating that shit in public, we'd be like, yo, you're a fucking vegan. What are you doing? And then when a friend walks up and they're like, hey guys, don't worry, they still think that eating animals is bad, everybody else has the correct response of, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And why would I follow you if you're advocating for fucking veganism, but you're eating a fucking chicken bacon cheese sandwich in front of me? What the fuck? So this will be a liability. And it will ultimately hurt the movement from a consequentialist perspective if you're not able to create some kind of standard and then hold people to that standard. Socialism or leftism will die if you do not build cooperatives or mutual aid organizations or anything that leftists talk about and jerk off about on Twitter all day fucking every day, pretending that they're better than everybody while spending more time arguing with people in 30-thread fucking Twitter threads than they do implementing a fraction of their agenda. And it's okay for broke, bored, anxious young people to spend their time that way, but not for rich, powerful, influential people to spend their time that way. And I think that should be clear. Okay. Final thing. Using supererogatory, meaning that it would be good if you did something, but you're not morally obligated to do it, and then not caring about hypocrisy and using virtue ethics like a slur turns off most people, including me. And it will be used as a counterpunch against the movement, 100%. And the reason why is because we don't fucking trust you. If you're talking about normies or liberals or progressives or sock dems or conservatives or libertarians or authfash or whatever, any political faction who sees that you are granted a modicum of wealth and power and you do not exercise that wealth and power towards your stated ends, will use that as a counterpunch to fuck you over. And they will say, young people of the world, why are you listening to these fucking weirdos when they're given money and power and attention and influence? They fail to yield it and they give you excuses as to why they can't. Why not come over to my faction? We actually care about what you say and what you do, and here are all the ways in which we are trying to implement our agenda in the real world. So I'm sorry, leftists. This might be a depressing video for you. I'm tired. I have no idea what the fucking momentum of this video is. But I would strongly consider it. Absolutely strongly consider it. Because if I can articulate irrelevance arguments, and if I can articulate Vaush's arguments, and then I can articulate a dozen arguments that haven't been addressed by either movement, and you're sitting there scratching your head, or you're trying to come up with a dozen ways through which to like refute my fucking arguments, but you can't quite get there, so then you say like you're bald, or you know, just come up with like personal insults. I didn't want to give you guys any ammunition. I'm not actually bald, I just shaved my head. But if you come up with like bullshit shitpost fucky comments, I'm assuming you don't have shit. I'm assuming you got nothing. And that sucks. Again, it doesn't suck for me. I have like an incrementalist, statist, Republican, pseudo-libertarian, centrist thing. My politics are already represented, and on top of that, I want to make the world a better place through incrementalism. I want to teach people how to eat. I want to teach people how to work and make a living for themselves under the nightmare authoritarian system. I want to teach people how to defend themselves in a kinetic and financial perspective. I want to teach people how to shoot. I want to teach people how to have good relationships. I want to teach people how to pursue their own egotistical goals. And I want to help them climb the self-actualization hierarchy. And while I'm not a perfect human being, and I do fuck a lot of things up, I've also learned a lot of things over the past 10 to 20 years through doing things and fucking it up. Whereas a lot of the people that you follow, not a specific dig on anybody, but a lot of the people that you follow have a lot of really highfalutin fucking ideas about how to change everything. And then you ask them how to implement it, and they're like, I don't know. It's really big. I can't do it. How is that satisfactory at all? How does that help you at all? Are you better for having invested your time and energy into this fucking movement? My answer is no. I don't think so. I think you should focus on yourself. And I think you should focus on self-actualizing yourself. And if there's anything of value that I can offer you in order to help you self-actualize, I will be very happy to be of service. So, I appreciate you. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I love it. Thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe, dislike, all that YouTube nonsense. Please check out. My name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I am a Marine Corps veteran and law enforcement veteran. If you like violence, science fiction, philosophy, Warhammer 40,000, religion, spirituality, debate, politics, there's something here for you. So click around. Check all of it out. Hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell. Consider being a member. Considering joining the Patreon. Consider donating during live streams. Consider being present in the live streams, even if you don't have any money, and asking questions and participating with the community. I would love it. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great night. Bye.